Good morning, my dear students. Today's lesson is going to be literature. We are going to study two folk tales. I hope you will enjoy the lesson. Please take down notes and let's get started. So, before we begin the two folk tales we have, let's know first what is a folk tale. Just to understand it easily, folk tale is something like Snow White, something like Cinderella. It's a story, traditional story. Actually, the writer of this story is unknown, is anonymous. We don't know who wrote it, but what we know that usually all those stories delivers a message, has got a theme, and this is a moral theme or something to do with how to deal in life in general. So both of them they almost have the same theme, which speaking about our elders, like our parents, our grandparents. The first folk tale is retold. He didn't write it, but he just retold this folk tale by one of the most famous writers in history, one of the most prominent Russian writers, Leo Tolstoy. He wrote a lot of short stories. He wrote mainly one of the best known novels, War and Peace. I definitely recommend to read this one, and Anna Karenina. He actually didn't have an easy life. However, he created amazing pieces of literature. I will attach a video to know more about Leo Tolstoy. The second folk tale by Yoshiko Ishinda. She is a Japanese American. Actually, she suffered also a lot because she was living in USA during the war, the Second World War II, and we know at that time Japanese during World War II. Those who were living in the United States, they got persecuted, they got discriminated because USA was fighting with Japan. During her lifetime, she actually felt secluded, or she felt different than the Americans, and she don't know to whom she belongs. So this usually happens to all the immigrants who left one place going to another place. Imagine yourself, you're an Egyptian and decided to live in Cambodia or South Africa. You look different, you behave different, you speak in a different language. So that was the case with Yoshiko Ishinda. Let's go ahead with our first story, The Old Grandfather and His Little Grandson. The main character we have here is a grandfather and his grandson. And we have two minor characters. Please write down these notes. The two minor characters, actually they are not that minor, but anyway, we can consider them as the minor characters in our folk tale. We have the son of that grandfather and the wife of that son. So let's get started. The grandfather had become very old. His legs would not carry him. His eyes could not see, his ears couldn't hear, and he was toothless. When he ate, bits of food sometimes dropped out of his mouth. His son and his son's wife no longer allowed him to eat with them at the table. He had to eat his meals in the corner near the stove. So what do you think, my first question, what do you think, or how do you think the son and the son's wife are treating the grandfather? Are they treating him in a respectful way, appreciating him, how he suffered for his son, how he brought up the son, or just neglecting him and putting him in a position like a dog or an animal near the stove to eat because he cannot eat carefully due to his age? One day they gave him his food in a bowl. He tried to move the bowl closer. It fell to the floor and broke. His daughter in law scolded him. She told him that he spoiled everything in the house and broke the dishes. And she said that from now on he would get his food in a wooden dish. The old man sighed and said nothing. He has nothing to do. He broke the bowl, and she decided that from today you are not going to eat in a usual bowl, you are going to eat in a wooden dish like an animal. A few days later, the old man's son and his wife were sitting in their hut, resting and watching their little boy playing on the floor. They saw him putting together something out of small pieces of wood. It's a very short folk tale, but it delivers very strong message. Please highlight what I'm highlighting. But before we go on, how did the man and his wife treat the grandfather? Please write down the answers in your copybook. So his father asked him, "What are you making, Misha?" Misha is the grandson, or the son of this man who is treating his father in a rude, cruel way, if we can say that. "What are you making, Misha?" The old grandson, "I'm making a wooden bucket. When you and Mama get old, I'll feed you out of this wooden dish." So imagine this happening. The young peasant and his wife looked at each other, and tears filled their eyes. Finally, they discovered the truth about themselves. They realized how they treated the man in a cruel way, how they didn't appreciate him or consider his age. And they now think this is going to be how their son will treat them when they grow up. He will treat them in the same way, in the same disgraceful way. They were ashamed. They had treated the old grandfather meanly, and from that they again let the old man eat with them and at the table and took better care of him. As you can see, very simple. I want you to think about the theme. What do you think the message from this folk tale? This is kind of story which parents say, the Russian parents, as is this a Russian folk tale, say to their kids before they go to sleep. Some kind of story like this. When you were young, your parent, father or mother, tells you a story, and usually the story gives a message. The same thing here. So very strong message, as you can see. It can be treat your elders in a respectful way, as they deserve it. I want you to think of better themes and write in your comments the theme of the first story. As you can see also, we don't have names in this story. With usually stories with no names, or folk tales, or any kind of novel with no names, this means this might happen with anyone. So it's a universal message, a universal theme. That's all for our first folk tale. The setting also is unclear. Just we know that they are living in a hut, which means they are not that rich. We don't know also the time and the place, which also the same thing like having no name. The same thing when we don't have a clear setting. This means this also can happen anywhere, and this can apply, and this message can apply to any place in the whole world, not just of course in Russia. So let's keep going, and now we are going to the second folk tale. And this folk tale, actually it's a Japanese folk tale retold by Yoshiko Yushida.